only Ohio Valley football team to ever play for an Ohio State championship is Steubenville Big Red. In 1984, Steubenville achieved perfection, winning its first Division II title in a heart-stopping 12-9 overtime thriller against Columbus Whitehall. In 1985, they almost made it to Columbus again, but were upended in the final seconds on a field goal by Youngstown Cardinal Mooney. In 1986, a rebuilding year. But rebuilding years for this outstanding program can mean 10-0 regular seasons, which is exactly what they were as they headed to the Rubber Bowl in Akron for another postseason appearance against Worcester. The Big Red did not fare well that night, but virtually the entire squad would gain valuable experience from this loss as they looked ahead to the 1987 season.
We had to get physically stronger, and we just had to improve in certain areas of our game, and I think that that set the tone mentally for our season in '87.
Big Red opened the campaign at home against Cleveland South. After South surprised Big Red with an early touchdown pass, Reno's gang gave the capacity home turnout a sample of what the '87 season would be all about. They won going away against the Cleveland South team, which would eventually go on to win the Cleveland City League title. In week number 2, Big Red took to the highway for its only road game of the year. They played poorly and were beaten by Warren Harding. Some valuable lessons, however, were learned from this setback.
I think that the loss to Warren Harding was a blessing in disguise. I think that sometimes your teams sort of tend to live off the reputation of the past teams. And it's very important that your teams want to add to the tradition of your school and not just be a part of the tradition. And that loss to Warren Harding sort of knocked a couple of our players on their back. And they sort of realized that, hey, I'm not going to be that good unless I work. And we had tremendous work weeks, the 3 or 4 weeks after that. But the key to our season was the fourth quarter against Dover. I believe that when we were losing to Dover in the fourth quarter, had we gone 1-2, our season would have been a disaster because we would not have been sure of what we're doing.
After the narrow win over Dover, Big Red knocked off Cleveland West Tech, which was the runner-up in the Cleveland City League this year. Steubenville began a string of wins where they were jumping on top of the opposition in the first half, but had not yet found that killer instinct. They built an insurmountable first-half lead in a victory over Weirton October 2nd. And then arch-rival Wintersville invaded Harding Stadium for what would be an epic battle on October 10th. Once again, Big Red jumped out in front 14-0 in a downpour. But the Golden Warriors stormed back in the second half to tie the game and force it into overtime. Steubenville survived 28-27 in a wild, controversial finish. After disposing of East Liverpool and Warrensville Heights, they were put to the test by the other arch-rival, Central Catholic. Again, Big Red grabbed the early lead, 21-0, but the always scrappy Crusaders refused to be blown away, and the final score was 21-8. Big Red was now eyeing a 9-1 regular season and home field advantage for the first round of the playoffs. A little momentum wouldn't hurt either.
But I'd say our best total effort, complete effort during the regular season was the Youngstown East game. And I think that's what propelled us into the playoffs.
Let's go Red! Let's go Red! Let's go Red! Let's go Red! Let's go Red!
DeSales came from the capital city. What they received at Harding Stadium this evening was capital punishment. Big Red's nightmare defense hung them, and the offense gassed them. For better than a quarter, every yard gained by both offenses meant something. DeSales finally got on the board with a 21-yard field goal by Dan Sprout, which made it 3-0. Their lead lasted approximately 12 seconds. This is Tubbo Yetz on the return.
I just saw fire in the kids' eyes. You know, I knew that they weren't quitting, down 3-0. So, you know, why should I quit? You know, they're young kids, 17 years old. Here I am, 38 years old. I figured I better get on the march too. And when he broke that one out, you know, we were on our way. And they weren't stopping us after that kickoff return.
DeSales fumbled on its first play after the ensuing kickoff, and Big Red is knocking on the door once again. Dunrick Yates needs 6 inches for the touchdown. Finally, they give it to him, and Big Red has a 14-3 lead. This is how the nightmare defense looked to DeSales quarterback Jack Elgin, who may wake up in a cold sweat tonight. The misery continued in the third period. Elgin is slammed by Greg Bell and company. DeSales had all sorts of problems in that third period, like this shank punt. Time for a little more of the Tubbo show. They might as well be chasing the wind. Steubenville was indeed the executioner tonight, 35-17, and they need 2 more victories to reach the state championship game.
In the regional final, Big Red would have to leave Harding Stadium for the first time since the loss at Warren Harding.
I got tired of hearing that. We have a better record away from home than we do at home at the playoffs. I think we're 2-2 at home, and we're 8-4 overall.
Big Red got the early breaks against Watterson and went on top 20-0 thanks to some good fortune. They needed the early cushion because Watterson had the most explosive passing offense that Steubenville saw all year. There were some extremely tense moments in the fourth quarter, but Big Red hung on for a 27-20 victory, which would send them back to Ohio Stadium in the state semifinal. The Big Red Machine put its most impressive performance of the year together in a 28-10 thumping of a fine Kettering Alter club. It was the finest hour for 2-year veteran quarterback J-Mo Creech, who dazzled Alter with both his running and passing. It was a total showcase of all Big Red had to offer in 1987. 1,000-yard rusher Tubbo Yates was joined in Big Red's slashing ground attack by brother Dunrick and fellow scatback Jimmy Kelly. In the second half, Big Red's nightmare defense picked the Kettering Alter offense clean to the bone. They would be back in Ohio Stadium 1 week later for a second shot at the Division II championship in 4 years. For the first time in 1987, Steubenville found itself in a battle with a team that was its physical equal. A long Buchtel drive resulted in a touchdown early in the second period to put them in front 6-0.
We preach to our kids all the time that you have to be able to take advantage of mistakes. And when you make a mistake, you have to be able to regroup.
Steubenville got the break it needed a short time later when Buchtel fumbled at their own 17-yard line. On 3rd and goal from the 7, Tubbo Yates did what he's done so well in his 2 years as a Big Red tailback. He found the end zone. Big Red went into the dressing room with a 7-6 halftime lead.
As the game was played in the first half, you can see where they were stronger than us and maybe as physical or more physical, but I felt as a coach that we could out-scrap them. And when we were winning 7-6, that's what I talked about at halftime was, 24 more minutes. You have to be as scrappy as you can for 24 more minutes.
Midway through the third quarter, one big play would determine Big Red's fate for the 1987 season. They appeared to have Ricky Powers trapped in the backfield, but he eluded the Big Red defenders and was off on a 71-yard touchdown jaunt to put Buchtel in front 12-7. Over the next 10-minute period, everything snowballed against Steubenville. Suddenly, what had been a close and hard-fought contest had turned into a 26-7 Buchtel runaway.
The thing that made me so happy after losing, and I don't know if you can be happy after losing, but when you're losing 26-7 and your kids block the extra point, I mean, they could have just went up and leaned on them and let them kick the extra point. But we had 4 kids in there blocking that extra point. And we came back and we scored and we were ready for the onside kick. And, I have strong beliefs. And I really, when it was 26-14 and we were onside kicking, I really believed we had a shot to win. And I think maybe it's because our kids spoil me because they never quit.
Steubenville was beaten 26-14, but it must be remembered that Big Red outlasted 142 other teams in Division II competition, and their great championship legacy is certain to continue in the future.
Our 1987 Division II runner-up team, the Big Red Steubenville High School.
Well, I see the future of Big Red football every year, depending on the type of seniors, on the type of work they're willing to do through July. I think that you set your tone and you set your habits, and you're a winner before the season starts. At the end of July, every coach knows if they're going to win or not. The key to our program is our administration. We got a fantastic administration from the superintendent down to the elementary principals. I mean, our administration backs our program. And we got great coaches in the elementary, we got great coaches in the junior high, we got principals that back football. Half of our administration's, you know, ex-coaches. So as soon as I get a couple losses, I'll probably get fired and they'll make me an administrator.
In the meantime, Reno Suckoch and his outstanding Big Red coaching staff will continue to operate one of the most consistent and successful football programs anywhere.
Let's go Red!
Ready?